67 years ago, on the 15th of August 1947, India gained freedom from British rule after nearly 200 years. It was only after the Anglo-Sikh Wars that in 1857, India's first war of independence had begun. Over the next 7 decades, the movement saw numerous national and regional campaigns, some non-violent and others not, consolidating, slowly uniting the entire nation and the people in their march to freedom. Before 1920, the national movement was seen as not connected to the masses. Gandhi changed all that, making it a mass movement. At the Calcutta session of the Congress in September 1920, a decision was taken to start the non-cooperation movement in support of self-rule. The first Satyagraha movement promoted the use of khadi and Indian materials as alternatives to those shipped from Britain.
चरखे की घन घनाहट रणभेरियां बजेंगी अंग्रेज को सुना के लेंगे स्वराज लेंगे.
The charkha became a symbol of the movement, which encouraged people to boycott British educational institutions and law courts, resign from government employment, refuse to pay taxes, and give up British titles and honours. Although this came a little late to influence the framing of the new Government of India Act 1919, the movement evoked widespread popular support, presenting a serious challenge to foreign rule. Gandhi had to call off the movement following the Chori Chora incident, which saw the death of 22 policemen at the hands of an angry mob. In 1922, Gandhi was sentenced to 6 years of imprisonment and was released after having served only 2. On his release, he set up the Sabarmati Ashram, established the newspaper Young India, and started a series of reforms aimed at the socially disadvantaged, the rural poor, and the Harijans. This era saw the emergence of a new generation of freedom fighters and leaders, including Jayaprakash Narayan, Ram Manohar Lohia, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, Subhash Chandra Bose, and many others, who would later on evolve to form the prominent leading voices of the Indian independence movement. What followed till India gained freedom was the single-minded purpose of a people. Our fight for freedom had intensified, and the instrument that India chose will forever mark the pages of history. India chose non-violence to walk the tough road to freedom. Led by Sir John Simon, a 7-member statutory commission exclusively non-Indian was appointed by the British to explore political reforms in India. As it reached Bombay in February 1928, it was received with protests and black flags. On the 30th of October of the same year, as the Simon Commission reached Lahore, a demonstration led by Lala Lajpat Rai faced police action. The Lala received a fatal lathi blow. On the 17th of November, he succumbed to the injury. His death enraged many throughout India, one of whom was a young man called Bhagat Singh, who joined Rajguru and Sukhdev to take revenge. As the Simon Commission was readying to release its 2-part volume on the India question, the freedom fighters made its findings irrelevant. At the annual Congress session held in 1929, Purna Swaraj, or complete independence, became the objective of the people. At the midnight of the 31st of December 1929, the Indian flag was raised on the banks of the river Ravi in Lahore. There was no turning back now. Gandhiji started civil disobedience with his satyagraha, targeting the British salt tax. Through the 1882 Salt Act, the British maintained a monopoly in the collection and manufacture of salt, limiting its handling and imposing a tax on it. Even though salt was freely available to those living on the coast, trying to collect salt from the sea and not paying the British tax was a criminal offence. On the morning of 12th March 1930, Gandhi left the Sabarmati ashram to defy the Salt Act. Such a mass procession had never been seen in the history of the nation. People from all walks of life participated in it as an act of revolt. A week before the march, Vallabhbhai Patel had been arrested. Gandhiji himself expected to be arrested, though each day ended without this. After 24 days and 241 miles, on the 5th of April, Gandhiji reached Dandi. Early next day, accompanied by Sarojini Naidu and 200 followers, he walked to the sea and picked up a fistful of salt, breaking the Salt Act. His act of defiance became a benchmark for the whole nation to follow. A spark, long awaited, galvanized the people. The Salt Satyagraha saw the large-scale involvement of women from across India. They came out in one voice for Swaraj. And on the 5th of May, Gandhiji was arrested. Before the year was over, more than 60,000 Indians had joined him in jail. As the situation became increasingly tense, India's Viceroy, Lord Irwin, called for a roundtable conference, a meeting of both Indian and British representatives to work out a future constitution. The Viceroy hoped that the results of these talks could persuade freedom fighters to return to the constitutional path. The first roundtable conference was convened in London on the 12th of November 1930. A polarization of political feelings in India prevented the conference from coming to any agreement. British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald announced that his government was prepared to accept devolution of power at the centre. In an act of good faith and to move the process forward, the government released leading members of the Congress from jail. Gandhi agreed to meet with Viceroy Irwin. What followed was a series of consultations, culminating on the 5th of March 1931 in the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The civil disobedience movement was suspended, and Gandhi was committed to participating in the second roundtable conference. However, he wanted a prior settlement of the communal question. With no solutions offered, doubts began to arise whether Gandhi would participate in the conference. Lord Wellington had replaced Irwin as Viceroy, and anxious conversations were taking place between him and Gandhi. On the 29th of August 1931, finally, Gandhi and a select group climbed aboard the SS Rajputana and sailed for England. On reaching England, they found the atmosphere adverse. The collapse of the world economy, rising unemployment, and a sharp decline in the British national income. The India question had been pushed into the background. The conference struggled for days together, and when it did take place, it happened to be on Gandhi's day of silence. This left no one in doubt that the Congress would soon be reverting to its strategy of civil disobedience. Within a week of returning to Bombay from London, Gandhi was arrested on the 4th of January 1932. Along with the swift arrest of other Congress leaders, India's brief political truce was over. Over the next 5 years, the new coalition British government, dominated by Conservatives, remained hostile and unsympathetic to India's demand for freedom. In early 1937, provincial elections took place, and the Congress took charge of the United Provinces, choosing not to enter into a coalition with the Muslim League. As a result, for the next 2 years in power, the Congress faced relentless opposition from Jinnah's party. The period from 1937 to 1939 witnessed many unrest in the United Provinces. Since the Congress was in office during this time, it was perceived to have been responsible. It resulted in the erosion of support for the Congress. It greatly strengthened the Muslim League's influence. In 1938, Gandhi proposed Subhash Chandra Bose's name as President of the Congress. Even though Bose had no clout in the party, he was popular among the young and radical nationalists of India. Subhash won a second term as president in 1939. This time, though, Gandhi opposed his re-election as party president, which led to a crisis at the annual Congress session at Tripuri. On the 4th of September 1939, the Second World War reached India when the Viceroy declared India as a combatant country. All Congress ministries resigned in protest, and with it the Congress lost the only bargaining power it had with the British India government. The Muslim League did not oppose the government's war efforts, and their ministries in Bengal and Punjab announced unconditional support. The British India government became more accommodative of the Muslim League. Subhash Chandra Bose had not anticipated that Gandhi would force him to resign from the Congress presidency or support disciplinary action taken against him. He was arrested under the Defence of India Act on the 2nd of July, 1940. Fearing that he would remain in jail for the duration of the war, he protested his unjust imprisonment by going on hunger strike. His detention order was lifted, but he was placed under house arrest. On what some believe to be the advice of Veer Savarkar, the leader of the Hindu Mahasabha, Bose left India, making his way to Germany via Kabul to set up the 3,000-strong Free India Legion, comprising Indians captured by Italian forces in North Africa. The tricolour, with a springing green tiger, was taken as the flag of the movement, and Jana Gana Mana was adopted as the anthem.
मरने से फिर भी तू न डर उड़ा के दुश्मनों का सर जो शे वतन बढ़ाए जा तू शेर हिंद आगे बढ़ मरने से फिर भी तू न डर उड़ा के दुश्मनों का सर जो शे वतन बढ़ाए जा कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा खुशी के गीत गाए जा ए जिंदगी है कौम पे तो कौम पे लुटाए जा.
On the 15th of February 1942, Singapore surrendered to the Japanese. Was India next? India was now critical to the Allied war efforts. Roosevelt urged Churchill that he should reduce the hostile feelings that Indians had against the British Empire. On the 10th of March 1942, he wrote, suggesting the setting up of a temporary government in India. On the 11th of March, the next day, Churchill announced the appointment of the Cripps Mission. Sir Stafford Cripps reached New Delhi on the 23rd of March 1942 and met with leaders from all parties. The Congress Working Committee on the 29th of March passed a resolution rejecting the Cripps offer. On the 19th of April, Gandhi wrote that the safety of both countries lay in the timely withdrawal of the British from India. The Quit India resolution was passed in July 1942. It asked for a British withdrawal in the middle of the war. In August itself, countrywide disturbances followed and were construed as a deliberate interference with the war efforts, making orderly governance impossible in large parts of India. Politically, the Cripps mission marked a stage in the British retreat from power. British power had depended on prestige. It was precisely this decline that diminished British control over India. After Japan struck Pearl Harbor on the 7th of December 1941, within 100 days, the Japanese had captured most of Southeast Asia. By the end of 1942, the Japanese had begun to favor the idea of Subhash moving from Europe to Asia. The 10th of June 1943, Bose had his first meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister, Tojo, who became a firm supporter. Soon Bose arrived in Singapore. Here, with Japanese support, he revamped the Indian National Army, the INA. Initially built by Rash Bihari Bose, president of the Indian Independence League, adding to its Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army captured in the Battle of Singapore, and enlisting Indian civilians in Malaya and Singapore. The Free Indian Government of Azad Hind was announced on the 21st of October 1943, based in Singapore, with Bose as its Prime Minister. It was given the jurisdiction of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Bose had great drive and charisma. The INA under him was a model of diversity by region, ethnicity, religion and gender. He gave the INA the slogan, "Ab Chalo Delhi," and renamed the INA as Azad Hind Fauj. Gradually, from the second half of 1944 to the first half of 1945, the Japanese army stood defeated in Burma. And with its withdrawal, the INA too withdrew. On the 6th of May 1944, Gandhi was released from jail. On the 17th of July, Gandhi wrote to Jinnah and offered to meet him. The talks began on the 9th of September and continued for 18 days at Jinnah's residence in Bombay. The period from the 9th to 13th of September was a period of subdued optimism. The next 5 days evoked pessimism. There was a complete breakdown of talks on the 28th of September. The entire period was marked with exchange of letters. The correspondence and the talks never converged, but ran a parallel course and were conducted in different tongues. On the 14th of July 1945, the Viceroy, Lord Wavell, invited 21 leaders from all parties to a conference in Shimla to discuss the composition of a new Executive Council. The list was not accepted, and with this, the conference had failed. The Wavell took upon himself the entire responsibility. It is now known that the termination of the talks by him was guided by London, as the results of the parliamentary elections in Britain were expected on the 25th of July, and Churchill advised maintaining a status quo. The conference, in effect, had conferred a functional legitimacy to Jinnah's claim. March 1946 witnessed the arrival of the Cabinet Mission, the highest level group ever sent by Britain to India. As its task of seeking reconciliation between the Congress and the Muslim League was difficult, the mission was given complete powers to negotiate by the British government. Invitations were sent out by the Cabinet Mission to the Congress and the Muslim League for the conference at Shimla, where it recommended that the Indian Constitution should have a system of groupings and a loose federal structure. The talks ended inconclusively. The Cabinet delegation tried to set up an interim government. However, due to differences between the Congress and the League, this was postponed. On instructions from the Secretary of State for India, the Viceroy then informed Nehru that he should form a government at the centre. The entry of only the Congress and the interim government greatly disturbed Muslim sentiments. Jinnah reiterated the demand for Pakistan. and in the Muslim League Council meeting on the 27th of July 1946 in Bombay, the League formally rejected the cabinet mission and decided to revert to direct action as a means of achieving Pakistan. The Direct Action Day on the 16th of August 1946 led to violence in Calcutta. Soon the violence spread to other parts of India, including Bihar, Orissa, Uttar Pradesh, Bombay. Gandhiji visited the people, trying to pacify and unite them, spending time amongst them. In response to the communal violence, Wavell suggested a plan for a logical and gradual British withdrawal, a plan that could have entirely minimized the violence that followed. The British, however, were by now focused on self-preservation, and the Labour government wanted a quick exit, ironically, on the lines that Mountbatten later proposed, a possible reason for Wavell's dismissal. On the 1st of April 1947, Mahatma Gandhi met Mountbatten, where he suggested that Jinnah should be made Prime Minister of India and that the country should remain as one. Though Gandhi made this offer sincerely, Mountbatten questioned Jinnah's response to this. The talks between Gandhi and Mountbatten continued to the next day. They remained inconclusive. The Congress had yielded political initiative to the Muslim League in 1939 by resigning from power in the provinces. Within 10 years of this, the Muslim League had Pakistan, an achievement for Jinnah, the blame for which should be borne by all. The partition of India was announced on the 3rd of June, 1947. On the 14th and 15th of June of the same year, the All India Congress Committee accepted Mountbatten's plan for the partition. Few voices, including Purushottam Das Tandon, Jai Prakash Narayan, and Ram Manohar Lohia, opposed it. Acharya Kriplani and Maulana Azad had kept quiet during the meeting. Badshah Khan's faith in the Northwest Frontier Province stood sealed. It was Lord Mountbatten, the last British Viceroy in India, who brought forward the date of transfer of power from June 1948 to the 15th of August 1947 as the day of India's independence. A date chosen as it coincided with the second anniversary of Japan's surrender. On the 15th of August 1947, India did celebrate at the stroke of the midnight hour. India did awaken, though the celebrations came at great cost. The partition of India saw 600,000 people massacred and 15 million uprooted from their homes, compelled to migrate in great distress and disorder. While we celebrate India's independence, we must remember those that paid the highest price, sacrificed it all for India.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram.
Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose once said, "One individual may die for an idea, but that idea will, after his death, incarnate itself in 1,000 lives. That is how the wheel of evolution moves on, and the idea and dreams of one generation are bequeathed to the next." The journey that began in 1857 finally ended. India and her people had won freedom.
करो